All right, fifth graders, let's start sewing. All right, so you're gonna need some supplies for this project. Needle. If you have, your parents have needles that they use to do like simple sewing, like sewing repair kits, other kind of sewing projects, whatever you have on hand is fine. What I recommend though is this is a needle with a larger eye. The eye of the needle is that hole at the top of the needle, and the larger the eye of the needle, the easier it is for you to thread your string or thread through your needle. But so if you have just like a standard needle, that is a little bit trickier to thread. So I would ask you to ask a family member to thread this type of needle if this is what all you have. If you have a larger needle, I'm going to show you an easy way to thread it, okay? So again, you need some string. It could be also thread on a spool. That's totally fine. And fabric, okay? I'm gonna use felt for this, but you can use any type of fabric that you have on hand. The thinner the fabric, the easier it is to poke your needle through. Felt is a little bit trickier because sometimes, because the thicker the fabric, it might be a little bit harder for you to poke the needle through. So I would test your needle to make sure that it's able to go through your fabric, okay? That's important. You're going to need some good scissors to cut your fabric. The sharper the blade, the easier it is to cut. And let's see. Yeah, some tape, some paper clips are also helpful. All right, so let's talk about finding what to sew. All right, you can sew anything. All right, I'm going to show you how to sew a tiny little creature, stuffed creature, but if you want to make a small pillow, that's fine. Whatever you like. What I suggest is doing a search on your computer for whatever you feel like sewing, type of animal. And then, so say I wanted to search for a dog, I would write whatever I wanted to sew, and then I would write after it, sewing template. Sewing template. And then you're going to get searches, hopefully, of very easy kind of things that you can sew. It's got to be pretty simple. If you have things that are kind of tiny and detailed, that's going to be a lot trickier when you start sewing. So this is a very nice simple outline of a dog. This is another one I found online of an owl. Again, you don't have to use these other little features. You can if you want to add those, but just the basic shape is fine. And you want to scale it to the size you want to sew. So this owl would be this small, okay? If you want it a little bit bigger, then you could scale it up, or if you want it smaller, you scale it down. This is an elephant I found online, elephant sewing template, a bear, I don't know, monster dude, and a whale, okay? So I'm going to choose the dog. So the next step, whatever you decide to print out, you're gonna cut out your template, and we're gonna use this as a stencil to place onto our fabric. Okay, now my stencil is cut out. The next step you want to do is make sure you have 2 pieces of fabric if you are, again, making a creature that you're going to actually stuff. And you want to make sure you have enough fabric so it fits your stencil. So as you see, my fabric's been irregularly cut. So I'm going to cut these parts off to make it a little bit easier for me when I start sewing. Okay, so now I have my 2 pieces of fabric. Now, to cut it out, here is a trick you can do, all right? You can get a piece of tape, and it could just be regular clear tape, but I like to make a little tape loop and place it behind my stencil, because I'm going to tape it to my fabric. All right, voila. Okay, and now to keep the fabric kind of together, I like to use paper clips. Hopefully you have those on hand. And this will help just kind of, you can slide that through. Keep your 2 pieces of fabric together so it doesn't shift. So make sure your pieces are nice and even and equal when you cut them out. Okay, so the next step is to cut out your stencil. So this is attached, and you're going to cut through both pieces of fabric. We have one more piece on the tail. Okay, I'm going to do that now. Okay, after you cut through both pieces, you can peel your stencil off. Okay, and tape, if you have tape on your fabric, remove that as well. And if the edges are a little bit rough, you can just go ahead and kind of trim if you want to change the shape a little bit. That's what I'm going to do. But if it's a little off, not a big deal. Still looks like a dog, so I'm cool with that. All right, so 2 pieces, voila. Now, before we stitch the 2 pieces together, you have to decide if you want to add any details to your creature. So I definitely want to add an eye to my dog, and I could add a collar. I think I might do that, or you can add a nose, whatever you want to do. So I'm going to take another color. I'm going to take this blue, and I'm going to cut out an eye shape, just a tiny little circle. And again, the sharper the scissors you have, the easier it is to cut your fabric. Now that's a ginormous eye. I'm going to cut that a little bit smaller. Okay, that's cute. And I'm going to give him a collar. Maybe I'm going to, should I give him a blue color? Yeah, why not? Okay, that looks good. All right, so we're gonna stitch these on first before we stitch the 2 pieces together to stuff him. All right, so to keep the eye in place, if you have a pin, that's cool. I'm also thinking paper clips might work to kind of keep that in place as I'm stitching it. So I think I'm going to do that. You don't have pins, just so it's not going to shift around. All right, and now I'm going to show you how to thread your needle. So again, this would only work with a larger type of needle with a larger eye on it. I believe it's called a tapestry needle. If you have a tinier needle, your family members might have what's called a needle threader to help you thread, if it's a tinier eye, the needle a little bit easier for you. But this is called the hot dog method to thread a larger eye. So you cut a small piece of paper, like a little rectangle, and you fold it in half, kind of like a hot dog bun. All right. So this is just a little rectangle folded in half. Then I'm going to take my yarn. I'm going to place it inside my hot dog bun. Just like that. Then I'm going to take the corner of my paper, where my little tail of my thread is, and I'm going to find the eye of my needle, and I'm going to slide that corner through. And as you see, it's going to slide the hot dog bun and your yarn, your thread. Okay, so the next step then is to make it even, your two pieces, okay? And then you want to tie a knot on the opposite end. Voila. Okay, now the needle is on securely and you're ready to sew. All right, so I'm going to start with the eye, and I'm going to poke my needle through my felt, and you're going to start from the back, not the front. Okay, and then you pull till, again, on the other side you have the knot, and I'm going to cut that tail just because it's getting in my way. And now that it's on my eye, it's in my dog's eye, I'm going to take that off. So now it's because I have the eye secured, and I'm going to do just a little stitch going to the other side. So something little like that. All you need is a little stitch. Look at that. You look so cute. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut. And then I'm going to knot these two together. And remember, you're always knotting on the back side. We don't want the knots to show. So this isn't going to show because remember, we're going to be adding the other piece on top. Okay, so I actually still have some thread on left, so I'm going to use this yellow thread to sew on his collar. So again, I'm going through the back, through both pieces, okay, pulling, and then I'm going just a tiny line. This is called a straight stitch to the other side. Okay, so you have a little line. Then I'm going to take my needle and go back again, up, and then down, all the way across till his collar is sewed on. This point, it's pretty secure, so I'm going to remove the paper clip. Okay, as you see, I have his collar on. My stitches are a little uneven. You know what? I still think it looks just fine. It's not a big deal. So I'm going to turn the back side, and I'm going to knot. Okay, now I'm going to put my two pieces together. All right, now to secure them, again, if you have paper clips, this is good because we don't want the two pieces to shift while you're sewing. You want them to stay lined up on top of each other. So I'm going to do that now. And then I'm going to thread my needle again and start stitching. Okay, so now I'm ready to start stitching up the sides. What you need to do is decide where you're going to stuff your creature. I would probably, for this dog, stuff him here up at the top because that way it's an easier opening. So what I want to do is start where I'm not going to stuff. So I'm going to start to the left of that opening, and I'm going to stitch all the way down and around till I get to here. And then I'm going to leave that opening in order to stuff my doggy. All right. Okay, I'm ready to thread my needle again. I'm going to use this dark blue thread. Again, the hot dog method. You have your tiny little folded piece of paper. Looks like a hot dog bun. Place it inside the bun. Close the bun. Take the corner edge where your yarn is and poke your needle. Slide your needle eye through that. Oh, I lost it. Again, sewing, sometimes you need a little bit of patience. Just take your time. Take a break if you need to. Here we go. And I'm going to double that up. Okay, and then I'm going to knot the end. Okay, so now I'm going to pick my starting point. And with this one, you're actually going to, because you're going through both, you're going to see the knot from the back, and that's okay. What I would do is just trim the tails. Not a big deal. There, so you just have that little tail. And then we're going to do a straight stitch. So basically you're going right next to it, through, pulling, making sure your yarn doesn't get caught on the paper clips. Okay, and then you're going to poke your needle back again, close to it, and then go down. And you want to sew close to the edge. So I'm going to continue with this, and again, as I go around my dog, I'm going to remove the paper clips because I won't be needing them. So if the paper clip gets in the way, just remove it. Okay, so when you get to the end of your thread, you want to, again, leave a little tail because you have to knot it. If not, you're going to have trouble with a tiny, tiny little piece trying to knot it. And you want to end from the back. You shouldn't end from the front. So whatever, when you get close to the end, go to the back side of your creature and cut and knot. And then you can re-thread your needle. Cut the tails. And then I'm going to re-thread my needle and start again from where I left off right here. Okay? Okay, at this point, when you get to the part where you just have an opening, you're ready to stuff. Oh, that's my dog Jack Jack shaking in the background. He just got up from his afternoon nap. You want to leave your needle still on, because that way we could sew it if you still have some yarn left, because that way we could just stitch him up. And then you'll be done. All right, so for stuffing, you could use cotton balls. You can use that stuff you get at the craft store called polyfill. It's like stuffing, white stuffing. Kleenex is good. I had on hand, I just cut up little pieces of my felt. Ooh, confetti, confetti. And I'm just gonna use it to stuff. I like, if you have smaller spaces, you can use a pencil to kind of shove your stuffing into those. Okay, now that my dog is nice and stuffed, again, if it's easier, you might want to use that paper clip again to kind of secure your hole in place while you stitch. I like that. And you are going to finish sewing up your hole. And there you have it. One last thing before I go. I just realized I forgot to give my dog an ear. Okay, so if that happens, say you want to add something onto it for a little more detail. I have his cute little ear right here, or I can do a little floppy ear. What you can do is get some fabric glue, or with your parents' permission, a little dot of hot glue, to just glue those little details in place if you want to add anything else to the front of your critter. So he's very cute, isn't he? Well, I think so. Reminds me of my dogs. All right, friends.